So I'm a patient. I was diagnosed with pulmonary hypertension in 1987. At that time, there were less than 200 patients in this country. There were no medications, no PH centers, no support groups. The PHA did not exist. So it was really hard. It took me almost 3 years to get a diagnosis. I was 24 when I was finally given the diagnosis. I grew up having bad asthma, and at first it started, well, your asthma's getting worse, because I was complaining about breathing, my chest hurt, and I was tired. So my asthma was treated more aggressively. That didn't work. I went back to the doctor with the same complaint, and they did some tests. They scanned my lungs, they did an echocardiogram, and what came up was now I had a different illness, and it was a prolapsed mitral valve. So I was put on all this different heart medicine, and just so much that I went through. And I did everything I was supposed to do, took all my medication, kept on my appointments, but I still couldn't breathe, and I was getting more and more tired, just exhausted. The simplest things, like taking a shower, would wipe me out. It would take half an hour for me to just kind of regroup after I took a shower so that I could begin the next part of getting dressed. Everyday things were almost an impossibility. So I went back to the doctor again, who then told me that they thought what I was experiencing was a manifestation and that I needed to see a psychiatrist. And I did it because, hey, this is a doctor. This is somebody that's gone through an incredible education. They know what they're talking about. I just know what I'm feeling. I don't know how to, give a diagnosis. So I went to see a psychiatrist, and I was put on anti-anxiety medicines, put on antidepressants and therapy sessions, and all this stuff. And I started to believe that I was crazy because I was going to a center talking about how I couldn't breathe, and I still couldn't breathe. So I must be crazy, right? It's just this vicious cycle that I got wrapped up into. I was working. I worked for a very large communications company. And one day when I came home, I lived on the second floor in an apartment, and I was walking upstairs, and I passed out. I was out cold. When I woke up, I don't know how much time went by, but I woke up in the emergency room at a hospital. And there were doctors and nurses around me who were very confused. Here was this, I was 23 at the time. I was dressed in a nice suit, my hair was done, I was in really good shape. I took care of myself, and they just had no idea why I had passed out. And more tests started. I was admitted into the hospital. I was put on oxygen because my oxygen levels were really low. Finally, a cardiac catheterization was done, and it was one of the worst days of my life. And part of it has to do with getting the diagnosis, but part of it has to do with the way I was given the diagnosis. So I went through this test, and I was alone. And when I was in post-op, the surgeon came in and said, "You have primary pulmonary hypertension," which is what it was called then. And then he just rattled off like 3 sentences, really, really quick. He said, "It's rare, it's fatal, you need a transplant, you're never gonna have kids. If you don't have the transplant, you have less than 2 years. Get your fears over." And that was it. I was offered absolutely nothing. There weren't any trials going on that would give me a little bit of hope. There was nothing happening. So my mission became obsessed with getting information. So every time I got information, I would bring it to my doctors, and I was contacting the NIH, I was contacting NORD, and anybody that I could think of that might know something about this rare disease. Years later, I found out that not only did I have a rare disease. I had a rarer form of the disease. Mine is genetic. So Dr. Matai talked about the different groups, and Jessica talked about CTEPH, and I have familial pulmonary hypertension. I've lost a brother and a sister to this disease. And I'm still here. And I'm happy that I'm here. You know, I met this young lady here up in front through a chat room. I didn't know anybody that had this illness. My brother was the first person that I ever met, you know, that had this illness. And the first person that wasn't related to me is sitting here. And we met in a chat room, and then we talked on the phone, and then we finally met face to face a couple years later. And it was such a incredible feeling to meet someone else that had what I had, that understood what I was going through. But I met Alex at a conference, and that was also the first time that I met Carl Hicks. And he was giving a speech, and he said something that to this day rocks me. But in his speech, he talked about how hope is a verb. Now, when I was diagnosed, and for many years, I had no hope. Nobody had anything to offer me. So when he said that, it was just, you know, he lit a fire. And I became involved with Pulmonary Hypertension Association and talking to Congress ever since. That was in 2006. So this has become my passion. I love coming up here. I love talking to the reps and the senators and to all of you guys, the staff, and talking about the importance of our legislation and why we need your help. So you know, Jessica mentioned the bill is bipartisan and it's budget neutral. It aims to improve the life expectancy and quality of life for PH patients. So I'm involved with this because, of course, I want to help myself, but I also want to make sure that anybody getting a diagnosis does not go through anything that I went through. And this bill will make sure that people being diagnosed will have everything that I didn't. They will have all of the information, all of the help. It will take care of everything that was missing with my diagnosis. It will help. It will help with the early diagnosis program. We talked about the medications that we have, and we're lucky. There are other rare diseases that don't have one medicine. We are blessed to have these 14 medicines. The medicines are expensive. They range from, you know, $200,000 to $700,000 a year. The side effects can be horrific. I'm on 3 different PH medicines, and my medical bills for just those 3 meds are over $70,000 a month. You know, so you have to get assistance, and there's a lot of things you have to do to be able to deal with the medications and the side effects. And then you have to take medications to deal with the side effects from the first medication. So it's a vicious cycle you get caught up in, and there's nothing, you know, I don't have a choice. I want to live, so I do what I have to do. So I've been to Capitol Hill many times, and a lot of the staff from the PH Association and other patients, we've all done the same thing. And we're all here fighting for our lives, for each other, for ourselves. The bill is extremely important. It will help improve lives, and it will help save lives. And, you know, please join our fight. Help us. We need help. You know, I just celebrated my 29th anniversary, and when I found out that PH runs in my family, you know, I found out because my brother had been diagnosed, and then another sister, and then another sister. And, you know, I've lost a brother and sister, and they have not been able to witness the marvels that I have. I was diagnosed when there was nothing available, and now we have these 14 medicines, and we have care centers and so much. But I think about my younger brother and my sister, and missed out. They didn't get this because they didn't survive. I'm here as a patient, I'm here as a constituent. My family is your constituents. Everybody, we're all constituents of, you know, all of the reps. This disease affects men, women, and children all over the country, and it affects their families in just as harsh a way as the actual patient that has it. So I ask that you please help us with awareness and research and education. Please look at the information we've given you, bring it back to the office, talk to, you know, your bosses, and let them know we need co-sponsors. And we're going to be knocking on doors as soon as we're done here. So thank you all for being here today.
Thanks again, everybody, for coming today. Please support us in co-sponsoring 3520.